We had media day. Jaylen Brown on the coach, Marcus Smart on being the point guard, and Robert Williams is just the best. And it's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. I'm on mama. I'm on my lady, ma. Anything's possible.
Rain and Jay's back with the vengeance. All the real Celtics fans in attendance. This the truth like 34. This like walking in the garden when you hear the roars. The crowd goes crazy. Most in-depth coverage on the daily. Mainly podcast royalty, the content kings. When you talking about the franchise with 17 rings. Focus like Danny at the deadline. Global but it got a local feel like the red line, the blue line, the green line. Play it in between time. I'ma throw my C's jersey on in the meantime and press play. When the F's done, I can't wait until the next day. Trying to stay in tune with the C's, that's the best way. Melly.
Thanks for making the Locked On Celtics podcast your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On Celtics is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and LockedOnCeltics.com. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. You can buy it wherever books are sold and on my website, johnkaralis.com, for a signed copy. Today, Media Day. Boston Celtics held their Media Day in Canton. They do this whole big thing where they take all of their media photos, all of those like special posed photos that they do, and all the Jumbotron stuff that you see. It's all kind of done in advance here. So like when you see guys with certain hairstyles on the Jumbotron, it doesn't match the hairstyles that they had recently. It's because whatever hair they've had here today in this setting, they did it all. They do all of this stuff here in one shot, basically. They'll go back and do other things from time to time, but this is their opportunity to do everything in one shot. And this is also the first opportunity for these guys to talk to us officially as, you know, they kick off the upcoming season. So coming up later, Robert Williams on Muscle Watch. Marcus Smart talks about being a point guard in segment 2. A lot of things happened in this media availability, but those two topics and Jaylen Brown's comments on Ime Udoka are three things that really stood out to me. There's a lot. I mean, we had many availabilities, probably I think 12, 13 different availabilities when you count Brad and Ime. But a lot of it is stuff you've heard before. A lot of it is just kind of different versions of things that we've already talked about. But I thought these three things were interesting. Rob, mostly because he was fun. But let's start with Jaylen here and the Ime Udoka thing. And I bring it up because I think this is something that's important. It's something I've brought up a bunch when talking about Jaylen Brown. And so let me just play you the clip and I'll react to it.
Obviously got to play for Ime with Pop in the FIBA World Cup, so I got to experience him there. So now coming here, I'm excited. He has my full attention, my full respect. Completely bought in. I'm looking forward to this season, trying to be an extension of him on the court, and trying to win his games and trying to have our experience and his start to his first year as head coach with the Celtics be a good one. I think that's the goal, and we're looking forward to utilizing each other to get the best out of this team and this organization.
And so there's JB talking about, I'm all in. I'm bought in. Everything. He's fully on board. And this goes back to things that I've been saying about Jaylen and Jason, both coming in right away, full bore. And Jason basically says canned stuff when it comes to media scrums like this. He's not going to be a big, he's not going to be a big talker in this. Jaylen is going to say more of maybe some more notable things. But what Jaylen was saying here is that he is coming into this scenario fully invested, fully on board, bought in completely. He's going to do everything he can. What have I been saying? If you've been listening to these podcasts before, Jaylen and Jason are not going to let a black head coach walk into the Boston Celtics after all of the advocating that they've done for more opportunities for black head coaches, which is absolutely true and necessary. They are not going to let a black head coach walk into Boston and be met with any sort of indifference or any sort of question or any sort of wait and see how this is going to go. Because I feel like if there was another coach, maybe a different situation, there'd be a little bit more of a wait and see. But Jaylen is behind this guy 100% before they even start practice, before they even get 5-on-5s going. Now, of course, they've spoken before. He's known Ime Udoka from the Team USA days. He's known him for a while. They've spoken before. They have a little bit of a relationship already built, and he knows, Jaylen knows kind of what to expect here with Udoka. It's not going to be a big surprise. There's going to be some interesting moments, I'm sure, where stuff hits the fan and, there's a disagreement. They're not going to agree on everything, but they're going to be able to get through that stuff because Jaylen is fully on board and is going to make sure that a black head coach in his first coaching opportunity in Boston, no less, where he is one of the star players, is going to get that full participation. He's going to get his absolute best shot to succeed. It's important for Jaylen Brown to make sure this coach in particular especially succeeds. So what does that mean for the Celtics? It means, great, you've got a head coach that comes in and doesn't have to worry about his best players buying in. He doesn't have to worry about winning over. Think about all of these other situations out there. A new coach going into New Orleans. I got to make sure I win over Zion Williamson. You don't know what kind of relationship you're going to build there. New coaches going everywhere. Can Chauncey Billups win over Damian Lillard? Can certain guys win over their star players as they go into a new situation? Rick Carlisle in Indiana and DeMontis Sabonis. Ime Udoka doesn't have to worry about that. These guys are on board from the beginning. That means when they hit the ground on day one, this is the Tuesday show, Tuesday morning, by the time you're listening to this, I'm probably sitting at the R-Back Center talking to whomever's out there after practice, getting a sense of how that first official practice went. And they can go in there and just know either what we are trying is going to work or not work. It's not going to be like, well, if only these guys tried harder, maybe it would have worked. It's either Ime Udoka is going to come out with a plan. He's going to try a few different things. This works, this doesn't, this does. The stuff that doesn't, boom, you trash it. And they're going to get a good sense, I think, a little bit quicker of what's going to work and what doesn't, because the guys are bought in. They're going to be trying. That these guys are going to be trying to execute things. So it just shaves some of the BS off of what they're trying to do. So it's really, really important. They're fast forwarding through a little bit of the process at the beginning. When there's this much buy-in from your star players, then you know that the team is going to give you its best, because Jaylen and Jason are the guys. They're the pillars. How many times have we heard pillars? Other guys on the team are going to follow their lead. And Al Horford's kind of in the back, just making sure that, he's the old head in the back. Just, you guys listen to Jaylen and Jason. He's kind of got the backup, quiet, but he's got the backup. So there's not going to be, if anybody falls out of line, it's going to be very easy to kind of get that guy back in. And I don't expect anybody to really fall out of line. So super positive and good confirmation on day one before we even see them hit the floor that what I thought Jaylen was going to be like with Ime Udoka, right away, confirmation day one that he is fully invested and ready to go. Very important. All right, lots of questions about Marcus Smart, the point guard, and that's going to be coming up Next, you're going to hear Marcus Smart's thoughts about being the full-time point guard after I tell you about Rock Auto. There are a ton of cars out there, makes and models. Each car has 4 different models and 4 different trims. And, there's so many different ways you can go with pieces that you need for your car. If you got the LX version or the EX, it could change what kind of wipers you need. Just get rid of all that confusion, plug your information into rockauto.com, save yourself the trip to that strip mall place that's not going to have the space to carry all of the stuff that you need for your car. No matter how complicated, no matter how simple, plug it into rockauto.com. You're going to see all the parts that are available for your car, truck, motorcycle, RV, and the prices are going to be great. I've already talked to people who have saved hundreds of dollars on parts at rockauto.com. I'm not somebody who's going to be looking for auto parts necessarily. I'm going to be looking for new wipers. I need new wipers, and we're heading into the winter here, fall, winter, lots of stuff that I'm going to need for wipers and new floor mats and all of that stuff. I'm going to go to rockauto.com. When you do go to rockauto.com, make sure you write locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box after you're checking out. Write locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That's how they know we sent you. It's an amazing selection. Reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Thank you again for making the Locked On Celtics podcast your first listen every day. Robert Williams' Muscle Watch still coming up on the show, but make sure you make your second listen today, the Locked On NBA podcast. I host on Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Wes Goldberg, David Ramil, rotating hosts on the Locked On NBA podcast, covering the biggest stories in the NBA. Make sure you're checking that out. Marcus Smart, full-time point guard. He's asked for it. He wanted it. Lots of questions for some of you who are listening and watching on YouTube. There is if there's a battle in Celtics land anywhere, it's this debate over Marcus Smart, the starting point guard. We all know where I stand on this situation, but it's yet to be seen. I could be proven wrong. Let's hear from Marcus Smart about being the full-time point guard.
My primary position, I've always been a point guard going up. Excuse me. Now it just allows me to go out there and pick my spots.
Robert Murphy.
Hi, Marcus. Ime said that he had a conversation with you where you wanted the ball in your hands more. You wanted to be more of that playmaker. How do you work Jason and Jaylen into the offense? Just how much does your role change the more you get the ball in your hands?
It's easy, For me, it's finding those guys in the right spot. I was one of the leaders in assists last year. And I think that speaks volumes, my playmaking skills and the things that I can do with the ball in my hands. Just having that opportunity to finally go out there and do it without looking over my shoulder or having to worry about, what's they going to tell for me if I'm too aggressive here or if I'm not too aggressive there. And just really, picking those spots. But it's going to be real easy. We got Jason and Jaylen, who's 2 unbelievable players in this league, and we're going to need them a lot this year. And we're going to lean on them a lot, and we're going to do a good job of making sure we get them the ball when they're supposed to have it.
I think the 3 words that are going to make everybody happy here is picking my spots. Pick my spots. When he says it just allows me to go out there and pick my spots, I think that's something that should be encouraging for everybody. If you're skeptical of Marcus Smart's ability to run this team as the full-time point guard, having him sit there and say, I'm going to pick my spots, has to be like, all right, okay, let's see if he's being real here. It's got to at least give you some level of, I don't want to say, positive expectations or whatever, but if you're not a Marcus Smart believer, at least these words have to be able to maybe ease your mind just a little bit, just a tiny bit. I'm not asking you to completely change your mind yet, but he's talking about having that opportunity to go out there, do it without having to look over my shoulder or having to worry about what they're going to tell me, if I'm too aggressive here or not too aggressive there. Interesting that he said looking over my shoulder and all of that stuff. I think we're going to figure more out about this as time progresses here. We're going to see how Marcus Smart feels with this kind of burden lifted from him, knowing that he's going to get out there and have the same role every day, this consistency. It's very look, it's tough for a player to go out there every day and be like, okay, what am I doing today? Right? Every athlete loves consistency. You want to be able to wake up every day and know I'm going here at this point. I'm going to be here for this long. I'm doing this. This is my treatment. This is my cold pool. This is my whatever. And you know that it's regimented. You like that routine. And a lot of playing sports at this level, especially, is mental. And Marcus Smart seems to have a great attitude and I think a great approach to these games and to these practices and to just basketball in general. But when there's inconsistency to your basketball life, yeah, I can see how this would be tough. So to hear him say that he's having this opportunity to finally go out there and do it without having to look over my shoulder, very interesting there from Marcus Smart, and I'm very curious to see how that is going to play out moving forward. How this role in this comfort level is going to how this is going to impact his game. I think right now it supports what I'm gonna what I've been saying about Smart, that it's gonna settle him down. It's gonna keep him. I think he's gonna take his shots in better places. And now I have this extra layer of, if he's this much more comfortable, then he can relax. Maybe some of the shots that he was taking were just out of like, hey, I need to take these shots because this is my only opportunity to shoot. If he knows he's got the ball in his hands a lot and he has more opportunity to shoot, maybe he's not going to shoot quite as much. It's like if somebody's starving and you give him a loaf of bread, he's gonna like inhale the loaf of bread. And if you instead just give that person just food throughout the day, he's just going to maybe eat a little bit more civilized and eat more normally. Maybe there's a little bit of that going on here after hearing Marcus Smart speak. Maybe there's a little bit of that we can look forward to, where Smart's just going to be like, you know what? I don't have to inhale my food. I can just eat normally and take my opportunities throughout the game because I don't have to worry about my role with Kemba and my role with this guy and my role with that guy. He can just feel more comfortable in the offense in general. Again, still a lot of theoretical stuff going on there with Marcus, but it's one of the biggest things that we have to watch for this season. I've staked out my position. I know where I stand. You have staked out your position. You either agree with me or you're screaming at me right now going, John, you moron, you're falling for it. Whatever side of this that you're on, one of us is going to be right. And we're going to see during the season, throughout the season, how it's going to be. I feel pretty good about my position. But hey, things I've been wrong before. And I will be wrong again. But I feel good about where Marcus Smart is. I think Marcus Smart mentally is going to be in a better place this year. And that's going to be good things for the Celtics. All right. Robert Williams, Muscle Watch, is next. Robert Williams is a treasure. He is the best. If you're watching on YouTube, get ready for this video coming up. If you're not watching this, if you're just listening to this, watch this next segment on YouTube just so you can see Robert Williams' face. It's worth it. That's coming up next. First, I got to tell you about Sleeper. Fantasy basketball has been very annoying to me. I'm kind of curious here about how Sleeper works. This is a new thing this season coming up. It's a great way to play fantasy basketball. It's a new way to play fantasy basketball. You don't have to worry about two things that bothered me about fantasy basketball. One, if the other guy had guys who had more games that week than my guys, just a schedule quirk, I'm losing. And I got it means nothing, right? Whatever I do, it doesn't mean anything. And daily setting my lineups all the time, I forget. and you forget one day, boom, you're toast. What Sleeper does is they've got a game called Game Pick. It's only available on Sleeper. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game each week for each starter to count towards their team total score. So it's an even number of games played between opponents. You don't have to go through all the busy work all week long. You don't have to, you give up halfway through the season because the busy work has caught up with you. You've lost too many weeks, too many days, and you're just like, forget it. I'm done. Just be the doormat. Doesn't matter. In game picks, you pick one game for each player per week based on player matchups, home versus away, opponent's defensive ranking, and pace of play, and more. It all adds up to more strategy, less work. Go download the Sleeper app. Start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed. Make sure you're doing the Game Picks League. It is very cool. It sounds very cool. I'm looking forward to checking it out. It's the Sleeper app. Make sure you're downloading that. Hey, check out BetOnline. Football is back. We're a few games into the season now. Pro, college, BetOnline is your number one spot for all of that. It's a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head on over, use your mobile device, however you want to do it. Sign up today for a 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Use the promo code NFL100 or use the promo code Locked On for that, actually. Locked On. From football, basketball, boxing, favorite casino games, BetOnline is your fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Make sure you're using the promo code Locked On for double your initial deposit. At BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Please gamble responsibly. I have to mention the biggest thing that was a storyline at Celtics Media Days all across the NBA, which was the vaccination stuff. Kyrie had the big, he wasn't there in Brooklyn, and there's questions about who can play in games in New York and San Francisco. The guys who play on the home teams won't be able to play at home. Guys on the road can actually play. So the Celtics have a couple guys who are not vaccinated. Josh Richardson's one of them. He will be able to play, I guess, in New York on opening day, but this is such a powder keg now. It's insane to me that it's become a powder keg, that this has become some sort of political issue. My health, your health is not a political issue. I want you, whoever you are, whoever your whatever your political leanings, I want you to be safe and healthy. So I want everybody to be vaccinated, not because it's a political thing, because it's a human thing. I want you to be safe. I want me to be safe. I want my friends and your friends and people I've never met. But if there's a thing that we can do to keep them safe, keep them safe. On the NBA side, players are sitting there choosing not to be vaccinated, but staff, NBA staff, officials, they all need to be vaccinated. If a player who is not vaccinated has a break, catches it, and somehow one of the NBA staffers, team staffers, gets a breakthrough case and takes that home and has children who are unvaccinated and they get sick or they transmit it to somebody who is immunocompromised, the track is just too crazy. I want these players to understand that we're not trying to invade anybody's privacy. I'm not trying to be political. I'm not trying to impose my will or you. None of that stuff. I just want everybody to be healthy and get this thing under control. This media day, all of this stuff at media day with the players, and it's a private choice. It's a personal choice. I just don't understand it. The fact that the NBA, which has been so progressive and so out front of so many issues, the fact that they're behind on this blows my mind. The WNBA is nearly 100% vaccinated, and they're fine. And their season's going great. The playoffs have started. It's great basketball. I'm excited for that. If they can do it, I don't know why the NBA can't do it. If WNBA professional athletes can do it, why can't NBA players do it? I don't understand it. Again, I'm not trying to be political. This is not a political thing. This has nothing to do with party. I'm not talking about mandates or anything like that. I'm just asking people to please do the right thing. But that's something that happened at Media Day. There's a big topic in the NBA. That's not going away anytime soon. In the meantime, there was a lot more fun at Media Day, and Robert Williams, he just cracks me up. I love Robert Williams. He's just so genuine and such a pure human being. He's so fun. I noticed when Robert walked in, I said, "Boy, this guy's looking thick, man. He's been in the weight room, I think." And one of the best things, one of the hot topics at any media day is muscle watch. Everybody's been in the gym. Everybody looks great. Everybody's added muscle and all of that stuff. But Rob legit looked like he added some muscle. Look at how happy he is to be asked whether he added muscle.
Rob, I don't know if it's because I haven't seen you in a little while in person, but you look like maybe you've added a couple of pounds of muscle there. Is that something that you were focusing on? Is that part of your development, what you're trying to do as a center?
Man, it's something I was focusing on, man. We got Andre Drummond over there in 76ers, man. Come on. I need a little meat on my bones. So, obviously don't want to get to the point where I can't, use my versatility, but for sure try to put some pounds on.
That is pure joy on his face. He is happy. He's like, I feel like he's like, yes, somebody noticed. Yeah, I've been out. I know where the weight room is. He's so funny. But that's great. And I think the balance of adding muscle, and it was more up top. The one thing I'm curious to see is how that impacts his overall physiology, his health, and his ability to run, jump, and all of that stuff. Does the added weight impact his hip, his knee, his foot, all of that stuff that's been bothering him? As much as he needs to add muscle for sure, he joked about Andre Drummond in Philly. If he's going to face Joel Embiid, he needs a little extra beef to be able to handle some of that. And good. That's good that he's doing that. And as he said, trying not to jeopardize his versatility. Okay, great. We'll see how that progresses during the course of the season. I'm curious to see the impact it has on him. A little extra muscle is good. It's not a bad thing. But the extra weight on his body, I want to see how his body handles that, or if he's just going to have to play a little thinner. But I don't know what the difference is, what he used to weigh versus what he weighs. But I think if you see him, and you saw him in that video a little bit, you see him a little bit more now, you're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, I can see an extra, 10 pounds. Everybody always puts on 15 pounds of muscle in the off season. But curious to see the impact it has on him. Jason Tatum obviously added some muscle this offseason. He talked a little bit about that, basically saying, I'm older now, more mature, and my body's filling out, which is the exact same excuse I use. I'm a little older, a little bit more mature. My body's filling out too, buddy. Yeah. Grant Williams losing weight. He's a guy that's been, he had a great quote. I won't play it now, but you can look it up. He basically said, I came in my rookie year. They wanted me to play the 5, so I added weight. I just never lost that weight. And I played the 4 last year, and that caused the problem. And now I've spent the summer losing weight. He didn't go to summer league so he can work on his body. That's what he said. He skipped summer league so he can continue to work on slimming down a little bit and working on his body, which to me, I find that acceptable. That's an acceptable reason. He said he practiced with the summer league team, so he was still out there playing with those guys. So it wasn't like he skipped it all together. He just wasn't playing in the games. And so, okay, fine. I'll accept that. Let's see how that goes. He did look a little more, defined, a little more definition in the arms. I could see that. You'll see some of the pictures floating around of him with a little bit more definition. That's good. He said he lost about 10 pounds. He needs to lose about, I think, 8 to 10 more, which he will over the course of the, preseason, regular season. Okay, great. As a guy who has had trouble losing weight his entire life, I can sympathize with that. I know it's not easy. Food is delicious. Beer is delicious. Other stuff is delicious. And I just want to keep eating it. I don't blame somebody if they like it and want to eat more of it. But sometimes you got to make sacrifices, which is what my doctor will certainly tell me when I go see the doctor next time. But Grant is dropping a few pounds, which would be good. Let's see how that works. So Rob's adding, Grant's losing. Tatum is just becoming a bigger, beefier young man at 23 years old. And that's what happens when you are 23 and whatever. So good for him. All right, so that's my media day takeaways. Practice is on Tuesday, first official practice. So I will be at the Auerbach Center. Finally, I am allowed back into the facility in some limited capacity. Not exactly the same, but I'll start to get a little bit more of a sense of what's happening on the floor. So at least I'll be able to see more about, who's shooting with whom and how some dynamics might be working out. I'll get a little bit more sense of that, which is better than what I had last season. Not quite what I've had in the past necessarily, but progress. That's good, which means I'm going to give you a daily insight to this team that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's the only Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast. It's the number one Boston Celtics podcast in the world. Thank you for all for doing that. Subscribe and everything like that. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Back tomorrow with practice number 1. Now for your second listen today, Locked On Bets with your boy Q and Lee Sterling, getting you all set for everything you need to know about if you want to lay a few bucks down on whatever sport is out there. Really appreciate your subscriptions and everything. And of course, share the podcast. Tell your friends, tell everybody to listen to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.